Model railroaders, you have been wasting your money on sound decoders. I got into sound almost 20 years ago. This right here is a Broadway limited that was on sale from $250 to $200. So I bought this. This was my first investment in a locomotive with sound. And I had actually it went into a different model, but this is a Soundtrack sound decoder. $60. I thought that we'd start putting sound decoders in our locals, my son and I, but it didn't sound very good. And then this right here, I bought off of eBay a few years ago. I don't know, probably 10 years ago. No, not quite 10. 8 years ago. 7 years ago. For $60. It's got an Atlas sound. ESU sound. The big sound decoders on the market now are Lock Sound and Tsunami. And I'm telling you guys, from my experience of videotaping trains, I go all the way back to the 90s videoing trains. When trains are at their top speed, you're not gonna hear the prime mover. Okay, it's more of a whir sound when they go by you because of all the sounds they make. They got your traction motors, you got your prime mover, and you got your fans. And if they're in dynamic braking, you'll hear that. And then you have the sound of the wind, and then the sound of, just being on the tracks. They make a lot of sounds all at the same time, so they don't sound like, okay, say for instance, this right here, sound decoder, Soundtracks, it just speed up the repetition of the prime mover revolving around, okay? That's not what real trains sound like in real life, okay? All right, let's go to the next one. This one here sounds a little better than the Soundtracks. Well, not moving. All right, I'm going to pause this camera. I got to say one thing about Broadway Limited. They sound good, but everything else about the locomotive is a piece of shit. I've had to fix that one many times, so I'm going to pause this. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I try to watch videos on YouTube of model railroads, but most of you guys are running locomotives with sound, and then you want to toot your horn. Doesn't that sound stupid? It sounds like a horn in a plastic box, okay? So that's exactly what it is, all right? It doesn't sound real. Okay, let's go back to this one. I got this one going again. You hear the horn on this, it sounds a little better. So I like the Broadway Limited sound over the Soundtracks, but still, we'll increase. That just speed up the repetition of the motor sound? Sound decoders are good for locomotives that are running slow. If you have a locomotive in a yard, going back and forth, but for full speed mainline, it's not very realistic because they don't sound like that. Okay, stop that one. Now, let's go back to this one here. This is the Atlas. I don't care for that as well as the Broadway Limited, but the actual sound of the engine, the prime mover, and how it takes a while for it to get moving. And that whine. That's closer to a realistic locomotive right there. You get that whine, that whir, whatever you want to call it. You don't get that with the other sound decoders that I have. I don't have a tsunami or a lock sound. So I'd say that's better. Let me pause this. Okay, I have all three locos sitting, idling. And I was told by an owner of a hobby shop that it's kind of pointless to have three sound locomotives together because it would just be a bunch of different noises together. So he suggested having one locomotive with sound and the others without sound. So, which I agree with, but still, when you have a train going down the tracks at full speed, you're not going to hear a prime mover. You're going to hear all the sounds the locomotive makes at the same time, and it's more of a whine than it is anything else. So let me pause this and I'll show you. All right, if you guys are putting sound in your locomotives, you're spending basically an average of $100 per locomotive and $100 for sound. I'm not putting sound in all my locomotives, so I'm buying twice as many locomotives as you guys are buying. See, all five of these locomotives here I painted. My son helped me a little bit. Some of these are his. This one's not completely done yet. I got to run the conduit along the back. But anyway, my point is, rather than wasting your sound that isn't really prototypical all the time, and I want to mention, I buy used locomotives and some of them have sound decoders in them already. I think this is Digitrax. You hear that whine? At full speed, that's closer to the actual sound than these sound decoders have. So let me wind these up. And my point is, a model train hold on. Okay. You hear that? That's closer to the sound of a real train. Okay. That train had my son's locos on it, and he doesn't come here to run his locos. So there were different speeds. That's the trouble with having a bunch of different locomotives. They each have a different well, not all of them, but some of them have different decoders and a different manufacturer for the locomotive. So it runs different. So I took off, this is my loco here, and for some reason the ditch lights aren't working. You see how I painted the blue flames on the plow. It doesn't have a sound decoder because I'm not really into sound. I'm into detailing locos, doing as many locos as I can, and between my son and I, we have over 200 locomotives. 80 of them are detailed, or custom locos, I should say. See, there's locomotives in these boxes here. These are my son's locomotives. See? There's another locomotive there. So trust me when I say there's over 200 locomotives down here. There are, but they're not all on a layout. There's not enough room for them. So anyway, my point is this. When a train is running full speed, it sounds more like an electric train. You model railroaders are putting sound decoders in than anything else. It's not good. You're not going to hear the prime mover when you go on at full speed. So here's an example right here. You hear that whine? And also the other thing is, you guys have these sound decoders in your locomotives. They're too loud. The decibel's too high. hear that? That's actually closer to the sound of a real locomotive than what you guys are running on your layouts. All right? So you're wasting your money on these sound decoders. Trust me. Go on YouTube, watch a bunch of train videos. Trains going by at full speed, and you're not going to hear the prime mover. I got to stop that. Well, I know the track's clear. See, these are custom locos. I'm spending my money doing custom locos. I'm not wasting my money on sound decoders like you guys are. And I don't have to listen to a bunch of noise while I'm playing with my trains down here in the basement. This is the basement. I don't hear the outside world. I hear what's going on in my layout. And if I had a bunch of locomotives with sound decoders in it, it would be very noisy and it would be more irritating than anything else. But if you want to run a locomotive in the yard, yeah, use a sound decoder. It'd be more realistic. And the other thing is, older locomotives have a lot of smoke. You're running sound decoders and you got lights, but you don't have any smoke. If you're running a new locomotive, a Tier 4, whoop. Okay, we're done. If you're running a Tier 4 Gen Gevo, you know, a new locomotive, they don't have much smoke, then go ahead and put a sound decoder in it, and you're going to be realistic. But a lot of these older locomotives put sound decoders in them, and they start up and you don't see any smoke. Not very realistic. Okay? So that's the point I'm trying to make. These electric locomotives on your model railroad sound more realistic at full speed than your locomotives with sound decoders. Okay? Thank you.